Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you this afternoon on this special occasion in the history of our great city of Cohoes. And it's my honor to introduce the man of the hour, and we go back a long way. It's almost 40 years ago that I, as mayor of Cohoes, swore in Bill Keeler as a police officer. At that time, he was committed to helping out the people of Cohoes, and he excelled at it as a member of our police department. And then, of course, he moved on and up, became a state trooper, and when he left, was a troop commander of Troop G, right in our Capital District area. And now we're fortunate to have him in the office of mayor. He has done a great deal for the city, including the amount of grant money he has brought in to this municipality, which not only helps keep the taxes level or down or stable, but contributes to the redevelopment of our city. He has done other things as well, but most importantly, he is a person of integrity, a person who wants to do the right thing for the people of Cohoes, a person who is intelligent and committed to this city and its people, all of you, all of us. It's an honor for me to introduce to you the Honorable Bill Keeler, the mayor of the city of Cohoes.
Well, thank you, Ron. It's always an honor and a privilege for me to share a podium with you. And as he said, it was 1984 when a young mayor, Canestrari, swore in a young Bill Keeler as a Cohoes police officer. And then again, more recently, we shared a podium in 2020 when the now retired Assembly Majority Leader swore me in as the 40th mayor of the city of Cohoes. So I know I walk in the footsteps of giants, you and John, but I'm grateful for your the advice you give me and for your friendship. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I would ask everyone to please rise now. I'm going to invite 8th grader Braden Huno to sing our national anthem. And some of you may recognize Braden. He had the lead role in Newsies at the high school earlier this month. Braden.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Braden. That was awesome. So much talent in Cohoes. I would ask you to please remain standing for the invocation by Pastor Donna Williams from Good Grounds Parish in Cohoes.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for this privilege to be here this afternoon for this honorable day in history of our city. The Bible says that all petitions, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings, and for all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give thanks today for all the men and women who are in various positions of authority and our increasingly beautiful city of Cohoes. We give thanks for all that serve in City Hall, from the city assessor to the city treasurer and everyone in between. We also give thanks for our educators who work daily to educate our children and keep them safe in their environment. We ask that you give those in authority wisdom for their everyday interactions and their transactions. We ask for open doors of favor upon Cohoes for 2023. Thank you in advance for blessing our city with new grants and new businesses that will attract commerce and healthy entertainment. Finally, we ask for peace and safety in 2023, and that prosperity in every area will reflect in the lives of our citizens, both young and old. In addition to that, I'd like to add a little prayer from my son Benjamin, who couldn't make it this afternoon. He'd like to thank God for for Mayor Keeler and all those others that have been involved in helping with the vision of the Connect Center for Youth here in Cohoes. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Yeah, stay up. At this time, I will ask Harmony Hill kindergartners Will Galarno and Kylie Keeler to please come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. All right, at this time, I just want to recognize some elected officials and dignitaries that are in the room with us today. Representing New York State Senator Jake Ashby, we've got Dan Cassell. Representing Congressman Paul Tonko, Colleen Williams is here. Hi, Colleen. Of course, retired New York State Assembly Majority Leader Ron Canestrari. New York State Assemblyman John McDonald. Longtime Albany County legislator, chairman of the Cohoes Democratic Party, and Deputy Majority Leader of the county legislature, Gil Heathier. Albany County legislator Sean Ward. Albany County legislator Bill Ricard. We have Cohoes City Court Judge, the Honorable Eric Galarno. Also from the Cohoes City Court, the Honorable Francisco Calderon. From the Common Council, President Bill McCarthy. Vice President Justin Alicio. Third Ward Councilman Chris Briggs. Fifth Ward Councilman Adam Biggs. We got Fire Chief Joe Fott is here. Police Chief Todd Walden. Assistant Police Chief Tim Keefe. And from Park Playhouse, the Cohoes Music Hall Director Owen Smith. And I see the chairman of the Cohoes IDA, Rod Dion's here. And there he is, Second Ward Councilman Don Russell. And if I missed anybody, I apologize. All right, so I want to just take a second to thank all the city employees who keep the city running, but especially my executive assistant, Amanda Primo, and my secretary, Kathleen LaBombard, who, as usual, do all the behind-the-scenes work to pull off events like this and make it look easy. So thank you, ladies. And last but not least, I want to thank Beth Slezak and her staff here at the Senior Center for accommodating us today and just for everything you do on a daily basis to take care of our seniors. Thank you for what you do. So, welcome, fellow Cohoesiers, to the 2023 State of the City Address. When you elected me mayor 3 years ago, I promised to build partnerships with organizations outside of government and to reestablish relationships with elected officials inside of government at all levels. And I spent my first month in office doing exactly that, meeting with New York State Assemblyman John McDonald on day one to discuss various issues, meeting with U.S. Representative Paul Tonko at City Hall to discuss my concern for the residents of Saratoga sites who for decades lived in an industrial zone, and meeting with New York State Senator Neil Breslin at our public library to talk about restoring that building and our efforts to help ensure an accurate census count. I mention these early meetings because they laid the groundwork for progress that continues to this day on some of my key initiatives, including Restore Historic Cohoes, Cleaner, Greener Cohoes, street paving, and replacing sidewalks. Those early relationships also led to a renewed flow of grant money into Cohoes, which has exceeded $25 million over the past few years. And at the risk of appearing greedy, we plan to apply for $20 million more in grants in 2023. In addition to productive bonds with elected officials, we've also built private sector relationships with a range of partners. Representatives of the Food Bank of Northeastern New York, for example, who supported our efforts to feed our neediest residents during the height of the pandemic. Not by coincidence, that partnership later resulted in Cohoes hosting the 2022 Mac and Cheese Bowl that brought 4,000 folks to our downtown and is scheduled to take place again this March. We reached out to Home Box Office and leveraged our ongoing historic preservation efforts to draw crews to Cohoes for the filming of the HBO series, The Gilded Age. This again put Cohoes in a positive light and was a source of pride, especially for residents of the First and Second Ward neighborhoods where the filming took place. Before I continue, let me cut to the chase. The state of the city is strong. In this hour, I'll speak in greater detail about topics such as public safety, infrastructure, and finances, but I can tell you right now that no matter the topic, Cohoes is in good shape and on a trajectory to get even better. And that's despite one recession in a rearview mirror and another one predicted in the year ahead. I'm optimistic because we are spending appropriately to ensure adequate police and fire protection, while also investing wisely in our roads, city-owned buildings, safe drinking water, and sanitary sewer systems, all while being fiscally responsible. I want to begin by talking about public safety. In my opinion, the number one job of any mayor should be public safety, and I assure you that it's mine. As I will speak to shortly, the Department of Public Works provides critical services that enable dense populations to live together in a city. But if people don't feel safe and they have the means, they will leave cities for suburbs or the rurals. Around the nation and across the state, the fear of rising crime is very real. Crime in general, and violent crime in particular, has seen an uptick in many cities over the past few years. In Cohoes, however, the crime rate has remained flat overall, and violent crime has trended down over that same period. In 2022, all but 2 cities in the capital region experienced murders. Cohoes was one of those 2, with 0 homicides. In fact, we have entered our third straight year without a murder in Cohoes. And I want to thank the Common Council for approving the 2023 budget, which again fully funds our police department. Under the leadership of Chief Todd Walden, the department continues to make significant strides. From its beginning in 1865 until last year, the Cohoes PD had hired a grand total of 1 female patrol officer. With the recruiting done last year and this January's swearing in of new officers, females suddenly represent 10% of the department's patrol strength. Cohoes PD also added Black and Hispanic officers to its ranks for the first time ever last year, making today's department the most diverse in its history and better reflecting the community it so proudly serves. Technology investments in the form of license plate readers and poll cameras placed strategically across the city last year have provided unblinking eyes that immediately paid dividends. Within hours after the cameras were installed, police solved a car pedestrian hit and run accident. The LPRs and cameras have helped police tremendously in a wide range of investigations, including lost children, thefts from parked vehicles, a gun threat at school, stolen vehicles, and more. Cases like these were all quickly solved with the help of technology. The LPRs and cameras will undoubtedly prove beneficial going forward, providing critical evidence to help secure more convictions. And since a small number of people commit a disproportionate amount of crime, quick arrests can often prevent future crimes. LPRs and cameras are worth their weight in gold. As helpful as technology is, the hard work of our patrols and detectives is paramount. Proactive outreach to the community long before incidents occur is critical to obtaining cooperation at the time a police intervention becomes necessary. Chief Walden has instilled the importance of good police-community relations in his department. Cohoes PD actively participates in and even sponsors a large number of community events throughout the year. Chief Walden leads by example, attending neighborhood watch meetings, always joined by a handful of detectives and uniformed personnel. And speaking of neighborhood watch, I'd just like to acknowledge Tom McGrath for organizing the monthly Van Skyke Island neighborhood watch meetings, and Carrie Briggs for spearheading the monthly Lansing Street neighborhood watch group, carrying on the legacy of the late Joe Primo. On behalf of the city, thank you to both, and also to all those who regularly attend the meetings for helping make Cohoes a safer place. Another factor that helps keep crime low in Cohoes is Chief Walden's regular outreach to external law enforcement partners. These days, it's not at all unusual to find state troopers, sheriff's deputies, and Troy PD, as well as other law enforcement agencies working closely with Cohoes PD to respond to residents' concerns about illegal drug activity. Any citizen complaint reported to the PD gets the attention it deserves. Drug enforcement, particularly undercover work, takes months to resolve, but it warms my heart to see residents in nearby apartments cheering law enforcement teams as they execute warrants and lead drug dealers away in handcuffs. Assistant Chief Tim Keefe has been spearheading the body cam program, which was rolled out last week for the first time. I want to thank local developers, Ken Raymond and Todd Curley of Prime Companies, for their generous donation that facilitated the purchase of the department's body cameras. I also want to thank Albany County Sheriff Craig Apple and his staff for their partnership in establishing and maintaining our body cam program. Progress continues towards Cohoes PD becoming a New York State accredited law enforcement agency. I'm grateful for the efforts of the chiefs and for all of the men and women of our police department for everything they do on a daily basis to keep the people of Cohoes safe. While I applaud the progress of Cohoes' finest, I also appreciate the crucial efforts of Cohoes' bravest. The Cohoes Fire Department has been led for the past 20 years by Chief Joe Fodd. Chief Fott is a 55-year veteran of the fire service and a past president of the State Association of Fire Chiefs. He is currently the second vice president of the Eastern Division of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. I again want to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Common Council for approving a 2023 budget that fully staffs our fire department. I also thank them for passing a separate measure that allowed me to order a $500,000 pumper truck for the fire department. And the 2024 model will replace a 20-year-old truck as we continue to upgrade the fleet after adding new SUVs in the past couple of years. While fortunate that we can count on one hand the number of serious structure fires here over the past few years, our firefighters have responded to thousands of 911 calls over that same period, often assisting ambulance personnel with medical emergencies. When we do have a major fire, we can count on all the members of the fire department being recalled, as well as mutual aid from departments in Watervliet, Green Island, and the Watervliet Arsenal. Our firefighters do important work, and they do it well, including innumerable Narcan saves, as well as most recently, just before Christmas, they delivered a healthy baby girl. Our civil service office will be holding a entrance examination for firefighters in mid-February, and we anticipate a good turnout. Being a firefighter is a great way to support one's community. My hat is off to my friends and the thousands of others who volunteer in towns across the state, but joining the ranks of a paid professional fire department like the Cohoes Fire Department is an exciting and rewarding career choice. And it also offers wonderful opportunities to advance through the ranks. We anticipate hiring several new firefighters this year, and we'll also be promoting 2 captains and 2 lieutenants in the very near future. In a related matter, the city is currently attempting to negotiate a contract with a private ambulance company in an effort to improve service to our residents. Nationwide, ambulance response times have grown longer in a post-COVID era for many reasons, though rarely the fault of the ambulance company. The capital region, including Cohoes, is no exception. The problem is not a lack of ambulances per se, but rather the long delays patients face in the admissions process. Ambulances often wait in an emergency room queue for hours, taking them out of service and resulting in delayed response time as calls back up. Elected and appointed officials at the state level are working with healthcare professionals on legislation supporting telemedicine as a means of reducing the burden on hospitals. In the meantime, area municipalities are working together to support the private ambulance companies. I'm particularly grateful to town supervisors Peter Crummy in Colony and Peter Barber in Guilderland for allowing their ambulance squads to serve the residents of Cohoes. Let's move on now from public safety to infrastructure. The infrastructure needs of our 150-plus-year-old city remain great, though we are making significant progress. Let me touch on some of the public works projects that are either underway, recently completed, or nearly complete. On Columbia Street, our sewer separation project began in April and is 85% complete. It will include new sidewalks and street paving between Broadway and Trull and should be wrapped up this spring. On nearby James Street, our culvert replacement project is 80% complete. Both pipe barrels are operational and completion is also expected this spring. The Mohawk Hudson Bike Path project is under construction and is about 10% complete. The bike path is being resurfaced, accompanied by drainage and green space improvements. That will be completed this summer. Our sewer separation project on Central Ave is 95% complete, and our sewer separation project on Saratoga Street was recently completed. Our circa 1911 water filtration plant received a $2.5 million federal grant last year, courtesy of U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, that will go towards an estimated $18 million in needed upgrades. The aforementioned projects alone constitute over $10 million in infrastructure improvements, with Cohoes taxpayers picking up a mere $300,000 tab, or less than 4% of the combined costs. As we complete these and other upcoming sewer separation projects, we are removing stormwater from our sanitary sewer lines. That means we will no longer be sending already clean rainwater to the sewage treatment facility, where it was needlessly being chemically treated at taxpayers' expense. It also prevents stormwater and sewage from backing up into homes during major storms. We will save thousands of dollars annually as a result of these projects. Another sewer separation project is currently planned for Manor Avenue and will begin later this year. But it's not just the centuries-old infrastructure that needs attention. Even the 4-year-old high water tank was found to have rust damage during last year's inspection. There are a lot of moving parts when it comes to managing a city, and I am fortunate indeed to be surrounded with some outstanding professionals. Let me take this opportunity to thank our longtime city engineer, Gary Nathan, for his yeoman's efforts in seeing these projects to fruition. And Gary, for those of you who don't know, was first hired by Mayor McDonald, and I'm talking about Virginia, not John. Gary, where are you? There he is, back there. I was hoping to formally introduce our assistant engineer, Shane Lewis, who we hired last summer, but I don't see him in the room. Has he got the training today? Okay, all right. So he just joined the staff last summer, Gary's trainee, and we hope he'll stick around for a few decades. Our engineers are currently mapping all stormwater outlets as well as catch basins and manholes. And as anyone who has ever been in the engineering department can attest, mapping the city's infrastructure is probably an easier task than organizing the paperwork piled up in Gary's office. On a related note, the Department of Public Works continues to do an excellent job of keeping our city running. Under the leadership of Commissioner Steve Hennessy and Deputy Commissioner Ken Radliff, our hardworking DPW crews provide essential services that we all too often take for granted, picking up household trash, ensuring the water is potable and the streets are passable. They do these things and much, much more, regardless of the weather, and almost always without complaint. I greatly appreciate the job that DPW does. We've made a concerted effort over the past 2 years to reduce litter on the streets by deploying new, larger recycling carts that have lids to contain the materials. All too often, recyclables in the old bins would blow away. Also, we now assign 2 DPW employees to pick up litter all over the city 5 days a week. I've noticed a difference, and I'm pleasantly surprised to hear how many compliments these guys receive. And I see them in the back. Thanks, Ken and Jim. Good job. Commissioner Hennessy is continually upgrading our fleet of DPW vehicles and equipment, recently adding a backhoe, a pickup truck, a wood chipper, and a soon-to-arrive garbage truck that was partially grant-funded. Last year, he oversaw DPW crews as they repaired catch basins, valve covers, and made all the other repairs needed to prepare for street paving. And under Commissioner Hennessy's leadership, we were able to pave more streets in a single season than during any other in memory, 35 in all. So if you live on those streets, great. If not, we still have a long to-do list, and there's a good chance we'll get to yours this summer. And that is because for the second year in a row, Cohoes received an extra $1.1 million in state touring routes funding. And I thank Assemblyman McDonald for recognizing our city's needs and for enthusiastically supporting the awarding of this aid to Cohoes, which helped make much of this paving possible. Thank you, John. Like DPW, our building department has been quite busy. Developers large and small continue to invest in Cohoes, and this year we will see even more development. Much of the new construction around the city is geared towards providing better housing opportunities for existing and incoming residents. Lexington Hills Phase 2 is currently underway. By year end, it will house 120 luxury apartments in 10 new buildings, representing a more than $17 million investment in Cohoes that will generate $250,000 in immediate fees and more annually in property taxes. And I'm told there's already a waiting list on these new units. Hoffman's Car Wash will open its new $3 million facility this spring in Cohoes on the site of the long vacant Junkta lot. Due to its proximity to 787 and State Route 32, I have no doubt the company will profit from its venture, and we believe many of our residents will take advantage of the newfound convenience, which will include a free vacuum service. While the new construction is welcome, Cohoes is also home to some of the region's most iconic buildings, including City Hall, our public library, and the Cohoes Music Hall. It's no secret that my administration has prioritized the preservation and restoration of these three city-owned buildings. In fact, it's part of our Restore Historic Cohoes initiative. And for our efforts, Cohoes received the 2022 Excellence in Historic Preservation Award from the General Peter Gansford chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I credit our awesome team of grant writers who have been incredibly effective at securing outside funding. Specifically, I want to recognize our Director of Operations, Teresa Bourgeois, our City Planner, Joe Sieben-Graves, and Joe's staff of grant writers that includes Sharon Butler and Josh Giller. Their considerable efforts have produced outstanding results. In the last month alone, our music hall received grants of $500,000 from the State Department of Parks and Historic Preservation, $500,000 through a New York State and Municipal Facilities Grant, also known as a SAM grant, and $1.4 million from the New York State Energy Research and Development Agency, or NYSERDA for short. So that's $2.4 million in grant funding for one building in 1 month. That money will pay for necessary roof and window restorations, as well as replacement of the music hall's HVAC system and other work in the building. The city recently won 3 other New York State grants totaling $1.3 million and a $1.1 million grant from NYSERDA that will go towards a new roof and HVAC system for City Hall. So that's another $2.4 million in grant funding for that second building. And on top of that, we've also secured 5 grants totaling $1.1 million for similar exterior and interior restorations at our public library. In all, that's nearly $6 million in outside aid coming into the city, thanks to the determined effort of our grant writing team. And we're deeply grateful to Governor Kathy Hochul and NYSERDA President Doreen Harris for their shared vision and generous support of our initiatives. And I certainly appreciate the efforts of Assemblyman McDonald and Senator Breslin on the city's behalf. Now I'd like to shift to finances. Fiscally, our city remains in the black. For the 3rd straight year, there will be no property tax increase. In fact, property taxes were reduced in 2023 for the first time in memory, and we'd like to reduce them again in 2024. Water and sewer fees have been steady over that same period, and I see no need to raise them moving forward. Both have appropriately been self-funding. I confer with our city comptroller, Mike DeRocher, daily. Together, we manage a prudent strategy designed to keep the city's finances on plan. First, we are holding the line on spending. Second, we are continually creating efficiencies. And third, we aggressively seek outside funding. So rest assured that we will continue to deliver excellent services while keeping your taxes low. The planned floating solar project, which I've discussed on previous occasions, is our next big cost savings endeavor. I anticipate that it will happen in 2024, and once fully operational, we estimate it will save city taxpayers $500,000 a year. While our annual audit results won't be available until the end of the first quarter, we have a good sense that our unreserved rainy day fund will once again come in at last year's very high level. Before closing, I'd like to provide some quick updates on some projects around the city. The conversion of our 1,600 streetlights to LED lamps is 98% finished, with significant energy and cost savings already underway. In November, a $625,000 parks upgrade program was completed. Courts at Sunset and Greenbrier parks were resurfaced and now include pickleball courts. New fencing was installed at both parks, and for the first time, Greenbrier has a $240,000 playset, which I'm sure will be a big hit with kids and their parents. You may recall that Cohoes received $1.7 million in the American Rescue Plan of 2021. We are required to spend that money by 2026, but we've been taking our time doing so. To date, we've spent or pledged about $280,000 for items such as a new phone system at City Hall, new gas pumps and exterior lighting at the DPW garage, and a subsidy to help pay for the James Street Culvert project. So accordingly, of that 1.7 that we were awarded, we still have about $1.4 million remaining. We have made progress on the plight of Saratoga Sites residents and the problems with Norlight. My effort to relocate these residents from the industrial zone began in January 2020 in a conversation with Congressman Paul Tonko. Subsequent discussions with Cohoes Housing Board President Mark Pascal led to him selling the relocation plan to the entire CHA board, the board that effectively runs the federal housing project. 3 years later, 2/3 of the families have been moved to better, safer apartments, mostly in Cohoes. The remaining residents will almost certainly be moved out in the months immediately ahead. Once all the residents are relocated, the city has agreed to purchase the property, raise the buildings, and prepare the site for future industrial use. I would understand if nearby homeowners desire similar assistance, and I've also heard the calls of interest groups that want Norlight shuttered. But politics is the art of the possible, and perfect is the enemy of good. For anyone who's paid attention to this issue for the past 7 decades, the relocation of these low-income families from the shadows of Norlight is very good news, and it's a very positive step. On a related note, Norlight recently added windscreens and air monitors to limit and measure fugitive dust escaping from its campus. The State Department of Environmental Conservation has closely scrutinized the company's operation in the past 3 years, resulting in a notice of violation regarding the dust. And last year, the State Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit against the company over the issue. The matter is still pending. I'm pleased to report that the restoration of the main public library building, which has been closed for over a year now, will begin in earnest this spring. In the meantime, our satellite library will continue to provide services here in the senior center until the main facility reopens. In fact, I'd like to keep the satellite library open permanently. We anticipate restoration of the City Hall and the Music Hall buildings will begin this summer. 2 projects at Van Skyke Island are in the works. Both will provide public access to the Hudson River waterfront for the first time in memory. A city park along the river south of the 112th Street Bridge will include a picnic area and kayak launch. I believe this park can be open by 2024. In addition to this project, we are supporting the State Parks Department in its restoration of the Matin Shipyard property just north of the bridge. Window and siding work has been underway since summer. Some grounds work is also planned that will allow public access to the river, including a kayak launch. In late summer 2023 or the spring of 24, we will replace water and sewer lines along the length of Columbia Street, repave the street in its entirety, install 3 linear miles of new sidewalks covering both sides of the thoroughfare, and plant ornamental trees. The $6 million project will be completely paid for with federal and state funds, part of our Safe Pathways to School initiative. And our $6 million floating solar project has entered the design phase, and if all goes according to plan, should be operational by 2024 with significant energy and cost savings to follow. I began this address talking about building relationships with elected officials. So it's only fitting that I wind down by mentioning one particular official I will miss collaborating with, and that's New York State Senator Neil Breslin, whose legislative district was redrawn for 2023 and no longer includes Cohoes. Senator Breslin was a champion of our library and is a true gentleman. That said, I've had a couple of occasions now to meet with our new State Senator, Jake Ashby, a combat veteran who served our country in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I look forward to working with him on matters of mutual concern in the months ahead. I think this is also an appropriate time to thank Assemblyman McDonald for his truly tireless efforts on behalf of the people of Cohoes. I speak with John often, very often, especially recently. And the conversation usually starts out like this: John, this is what's going on, and I think this is what I need. And on the other end of the phone, John says, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And he does, because as a former 3-term mayor of Cohoes, he's dealt with a lot of the same issues. So thanks again, John. We appreciate you. My administration has a slogan that we work towards daily: honor the past, explore the present, and inspire the future. Our focus on restoring the beautiful 19th century architecture seen in our library and music hall and city hall reflects our commitment to the past and the efforts of those who came before us. Our dedication to bringing the community together is evident in many of the local events that we've either created or enthusiastically continued, such as Eat in the Street, the Soup Stroll, Small Business Saturday, the Van Skyke Island Winter Carnival, the Mac and Cheese Bowl, the Holiday Market, Rock the Block, and the Turkey Trot. Bringing residents together to enjoy themselves and make memories helps us all explore the present. Lastly, we aim to inspire future generations with the likes of our floating solar array and other green energy projects. Cohoes has been ascendant for decades, thanks in part to the efforts of mayors past and their respective administrations. Today, the city continues to rise. For the past 3 years, we have vigorously pursued a wide range of grants, and as a result, Cohoes has been awarded $25 million in outside funding. That is an amount not seen since the Model Cities era, as our community prepared to celebrate its centennial at the height of President Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. Millions of dollars in state and private funding will go a long way towards our goals of restoring City Hall, the Music Hall, and our public library. Millions more in federal aid will help upgrade our 112-year-old water filtration plant and make our 21st century floating solar project a reality. So I will say it again. The state of our city is strong, and it's getting stronger. Cohoes is a city rich in history. It is home to the primeval and majestic Cohoes Falls. It's where the mastodons roamed 10,000 years ago. Plans that led to the turning point of the American Revolution were developed at my favorite house in Cohoes, the Van Skyke Mansion. 2 centuries ago, businessmen in Cohoes harnessed hydropower and built factories housing textile mills. Those historic buildings still stand today, reimagined and repurposed by contemporary investors with the enthusiastic cooperation of previous city administrations. My family has resided here since before the American Revolution. My children and grandchildren are 9th and 10th generation Cohoesiers. I want them and future generations to behold our historic 18th and 19th century buildings, not as ruins, but as vibrant community centers. Cohoesiers are rightly proud of our history, so let's prove ourselves worthy of our ancestors. Serving as mayor of our beloved city is one of the greatest honors of my life, and I thank the citizens of my hometown for bestowing this privilege upon me and for their continued support. I thank you all for joining me here today, and I thank the taxpayers of Cohoes who make everything we do possible. May God continue to bless us in our beloved city of Cohoes. Thank you.